It was April of 2022 when Rose says jail guards brought a transgender woman into a female dorm. According to DOC policy, as much as possible, the department seeks to accommodate an individual's desired housing placement in accordance with their gender identity. But Rose says this inmate immediately showed their gender identity was a sham. Investigative records from Rikers show Rose and other female inmates immediately believed the new inmate was clearly male who infiltrated when they are clearly not transgender, that the prisoner stated openly and publicly that he was not gay nor trans, and that he's a whole man that likes women.
When this prisoner walked into the women's dorm, what did the prisoner say?
His introduction was, I'm not a transgender. I'm straight. I like women.
He said he was a straight man in a women's jail.
Yeah. After the captains walked out, that was just hello.
According to her lawsuit, on April 6, 2022, Rose Doe complained the supposedly trans inmate followed her into the bathroom and groped her. That same evening, the acting warden of the jail wrote this email saying, I feel that individual is not a suitable fit for the female dorm. But the new detainee was allowed to stay, and early the next morning, Rose says the prisoner raped her.
He just grabs me, put me behind, and take my pants off. He raped me.
Yay, look at us all hang out. Yay.
Hey, Coach Arbuckle's there.
The very things that lead to abortion.
Meanwhile, the newest war you've never heard about.
What is it good for?
Boeing stock. Capitalism, that's what it's good for.
Hear cha-ching every time Nikki speaks now.
Yeah, right.
Didn't Harlan say something about bombing brown people?
Bombing brown people. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to News from the Pew, where we take news from the, around the interwebs and we talk about it because that's what people do now. I'm your host, Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic, and
from the great state of Texas,
from the Republic, as I've always been saying, from the Republic of Texas, which is all the action is about 5.5, 6, 7 hours away from me, so it's not like I'm in any, I'm really in the spot, but yes, from the Republic of Texas, I am here, and from Nikki Haley's home state. Sorry, but until she drops out, Bubby.
I'm never gonna live that down.
From the home state of Nikki Haley, Lindsey Graham, and Tim Scott, which is probably why he's sick as a dog. We have the one and only Steve Cunningham braving the fact that he can barely talk, folks. So give it up for him, and thank you for hanging out with us. How we doing over there, buddy?
I'm sponsored by Ricola, but no, I'll live. Yeah, if someone has a spy cam in here, you hear me coughing all day long, but yeah, we still get the job done.
Yeah, it would take more than just a simple cough. It would take more than the Rona to stop the Godfather of YouTube. So we're not worried about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got two topics we're going to talk about today's show. We're going to talk about New Hampshire primary. We're going to talk about what's happening down the border. And we're going to kind of weave in some other stuff as well. So, in case you did not see it, on Tuesday night, Donald Trump became the only presidential candidate in history to win the New Hampshire primary 3 times. And he won it pretty decisively, if you'd like to take a look.
Time to congratulate Ron DeSantis and, of course, a really terrific person who I've gotten to know, his wife, Casey, for having run a great campaign for president. He did. He ran a really good campaign, I will tell you. It's not easy. They think it's easy doing this stuff, right? It's not easy. But as you know, he left the campaign trail today at 3 p.m., and in so doing, he was very gracious, and he endorsed me, so I appreciate it.
Every time I hear him talk, I
appreciate
say,
that,
man, he sounds like Rick.
also look forward to working with Ron and everybody else to defeat crooked Joe Biden.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Okay. Analyze tonight. What do you see?
Big night for President Trump. Look, this thing is over. We know this. This was going to be Nikki Haley's biggest opportunity. She's 10 points down with 50% of the vote in. This is like when you start off on those roller coasters, Sean, and you start really low. That's where she started, 1-2%. You crest all the way up. You think things are going well, and then you go over the edge, and it's downhill from there. South Carolina's not going to go well for her. Nevada's not going to go well for her. Florida's not going to go well for her. It's time for the party to unite. This primary is over, but she wants to hang around, so we're going to have to beat her in a couple more states.
All right, Fleischer, your take, sir.
Yeah, unless Nikki Haley is able to make deeper inroads with the group that represents most Republicans, which is conservative Republicans, I think she's going to hit a plateau, and she might be there right now with about 45% in a state that's quite friendly toward a Nikki Haley candidacy. So when she says she started at 2% and has moved up, she's right, and she should get credit for being the last woman standing. But in politics, that's not good enough. And the fundamental thing she hasn't come to terms with yet is conservatives love Donald Trump, and she hasn't been able to crack that. That'll be a problem in South Carolina as well, I suspect.
All right, we can see that Trump is up a full 10 percentage points right now. Stephen Miller, people that I know, crunching numbers, texting me, they think the number's going to be closer to 13, 14, maybe even 15%. Regardless, I
Not your typical victory speech, but let's not have somebody take a victory when she had a very bad night. I can go up and I can say to everybody, oh, thank you for the victory. It's wonderful. Or I can go up and say, who the hell was the imposter that went up on the stage before and claimed a victory? She did very poorly, actually. Somebody ran up to the stage all dressed up nicely. And when I watched her in the fancy dress, that probably wasn't so fancy, come up, I said, what's she doing? We won. But I said, wow, she's doing like a speech like she won. She didn't win, she lost. She ran up and she pretended she won Iowa. And I looked around, I said, didn't she come in third? Yeah, she came in third. And I said, she's taking a victory lap. And we beat her so badly, but Ron beat her also. Ron came in second and he left. She came in third and she's still hanging around. I think we're 50 points up, 5-0. 5-0, 50 points up on a person that was governor. That tells you something. I find in life you can't let people get away with bullshit, okay? You can't. You just can't do that. I don't get too angry, I get even. And just a little note to Nikki. She's not gonna win. She's not gonna win. But if she did, she would be under investigation by those people in 15 minutes. And I could tell you 5 reasons why already.
I mean, they pretty much have dirt on everybody. So it's pretty much it's not a wrap. I mean, it is a wrap, but we still have Haley kind of sticking around, taking the establishment money, being a thorn in Trump's side, and really just making this a lot more of a process than it needs to be. And it's just funny because she wasn't this big of a pain when she was the governor of South Carolina, was she, Steve?
Oh, man, I mean, she's the one that started all the iconoclasm in the states.
That's
people
right.
are upset about what's going on in Arlington and other with the Confederate monuments, and was out west. They took down something else the other day. I can't remember what it was. But she was the ringleader and all that. People didn't like her when I don't remember many people liking her when she was governor, and even the little stupid things like she made everyone answer her phone. It's a beautiful day in South Carolina. How can I help you? That was a big thing that she pushed through. McMaster became governor after her, and he was not a fan of hers at all. And I don't even remember how she even got there. I mean, she brought Boeing.
She served 2 terms, though, right?
That I remember from her.
She did serve 2 terms, though, right?
Yeah, well, so does Graham. Graham gets voted in all the time. I think he's 6 times he's gotten elected. Apologize. He's not too far from where I grew up. I mean, he was in Greenville area county, so I mean, in between Greenville and Spartanburg. So we didn't, but I didn't vote for the guy. I couldn't. He's not in my district. But great, googly moogly. We got some guys in there that just make you say, "How'd you get in? And why can't we get you out?"
Well, it is especially surprising for Nikki Haley, considering you guys in South Carolina were so racist to her for being a little brown girl. At least that's what she told everybody. I know there was that MSNBC
Want to know
clip.
what it was like growing up? I was disqualified from a beauty pageant because I wasn't white or black, because they didn't know where to put me. So look, I know the hardships, the pain that come with racism.
I heard that and go, do I need different glasses? What did you just say?
And that's the stuff. It's like when you're gonna throw this kind of stuff out there, you're setting yourself up to kind of get bullying, because they pulled up her. I know Fearless found her class photo, and there were like 5 black kids in the class with her, and they can't find anybody to verify the story or back up the fact that they put Nikki Haley in a corner and said, go make me a Slurpee or something like that, because it didn't happen. No. So yeah, it fits her profile, that woke BS nonsense.
I mean, I went to public school in South Carolina. I know, my brother did too, my sister did too. The only time we heard race anything, there was in Cowpens, there was always a quote unquote race, where every so often it was like the scheduled April 15th or whatever it was the OJ, thing. I remember I was in the cafeteria at Broome High School, and people were gathering, those people gathering, what do you call that? The trays from the calf. No one really went anywhere because they didn't know what people were going to do. And that was really just a handful of idiots that were there. Nothing, never, I don't know. That was the most, if you want to go race, that Broome was not exactly your the cream of the crop area at the time, but no, there was nothing like that. I guarantee Arrington would say that he was in Anderson area. None of that happened there. I couldn't, and she's going to go, and that's the next thing. She's going to South Carolina with that on her trail. I bet she gets blown out of the water.
But Steve, does it matter at this point? Does it matter if she gets blown out or not? It'd just be nice to
see her get humiliated in her own state that she claims to love.
Because I remember that's what happened back in 2016 in the Wayback Machine. Rubio, he absolutely ducked out before Florida because he knew he was going to get the brakes beaten off of him. And that is the one thing in politics. You can take a lot, but if your home state absolutely rejects you, that's something you can't really.
You're not going to recover from.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it an open primary in like New Hampshire?
No.
Because the governor of New Hampshire was on radio saying that it's just like New Hampshire. So people should go out, Democrats should go out in force and vote for Nikki.
Unless it's changed. We had to say you're a GOP or you're a Dem. You're voting this, you're voting for that. And I remember Ron Paul. South Carolina is the place where Ron Paul got booed off the stage for quoting the Golden Rule.
That is true.
That's just a section of the area. That was what Myrtle Beach was that?
I believe so. Yeah.
And just hey, maybe we shouldn't go bombing everyone. Boo! Get them off. We are more saber.
Boeing isn't headquartered down there.
We are saber rattlers. So yeah, it's rah. Let's bomb them all type deal. So it's a difference. It's blood red, but they had no problem closing down. Now McMaster ended up opening up pretty quick afterwards. One of the first ones after Florida, and others did first. I mean, South Dakota went ahead and led away, but they claim to be the reddest of the red. But I mean, like Nancy, what's her face? Nancy Grace, not Nancy Grace, Mace.
Even she's come out for Trump. She's even come out for Trump.
But you know, let's be honest. I mean, Catholic vote comes out saying they support Trump again. You got Jack P. Always. I mean, I think he's going to name his next kid Trump or Donald. One of the two. But
Donald,
Don
Jr.
Yeah, I mean, Nancy's not exactly all right. Well, Nancy, she's going to be a canonized saint one day. Well, hopefully she will be. But I mean, don't forget, this is the most gay-friendly president ever. LGBT for Trump everywhere. By the way, there was a bunch of LGBTs at the March for Life. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
My prediction is one day those they will be speaking at the March for Life. Let me see. I have it right here. Yeah, video of one of them.
Yep. Because we need to be accepting. Yes, that's right.
Hey, Donald's the member of the father of the jab. By the way, did you see this? Where did I put it? Did you know watching a football game could cause you to have a heart attack?
You know
why? No, they go through this whole thing, and it's kind of funny. They bring up food, and maybe it's bad food you're eating. You're sitting on your keister all day long. It's maybe you're just too into the game about anything but the jibbity jab.
Yep, absolutely.
How much money did he give Planned Parenthood? Leela Rose had that art. It was going up the whole time. Everyone's got that whole thing. Well, he did get rode down. Oh, by the way, what is Joey B running on? You see this?
Yeah.
The Dobbs decision practically dared women of America to be heard. In writing, they said, women are not without electoral or political power. No kidding. I said at the time, I don't think this court and the MAGA Republicans have any clue about the power of women in America.
Ooh, he looks good. He got a lot of adrenaline going to him right now.
Well, they pumped him up, yeah.
They pumped him up with a lot of adrenaline for that one.
He's currently sleeping for the next 3 days. I mean, what's been winning in states that have virtually done it.
Steve, when you and I bring that up, it is a sore subject. On the Saturday when the March for Life happened, I put out the message, where are you guys at the state level? And they're like, we have them at the state level. We have them at the state level all the time. I'm like, great. Where are you on voting day? Where, you know what I mean? You all came out for the march. Why didn't you go to the voting booth? And yet nobody has come back at me with, they're like, I'm just responding to the fact that you said we don't march. Yeah, I don't care about marches, guys. I don't care about marches. I care about votes.
There's a lady here. She's a convert from, atheism. A lot of trans give her a lot of grief because she has tattoos all over it. She's an old rocker. I think she had at least one abortion. I know, and she mentions that in her conversion talks before. She's one of the head leaders at the Charlotte area for pro-life. Really good at pushing it. She was interviewed a couple years ago asking about the march, and she's always at the local one, which ours was the Friday before the DC one. And I saw, I think Louisiana's Baton Rouge one or New Orleans had one, I think the day after, the 2 days after. And they asked her, what do you think about the march? And she goes, well, if marches did anything, we would do it every day.
Good point.
There's a lot to that. I mean, we just keep walking and walking. We get our Fitbit right. But I mean, it wasn't the march that got, road taken down, which again, I keep thinking that was a planned thing, that nothing accidental goes down in DC. Like if the SCOTUS wants to do something like, I don't know, federal overreach, they have no problem doing that, as we see is something going on right now.
Yeah. I completely agree, because John Roberts is also such a spineless politician that to do something of that magnitude, there had to be some kind of some kind of plan down the road. I mean, we already saw what the plan was.
You see conservatives saying, I mean, from Graham wanting a federal solution. I've seen guys come at me online. Hey, we need a federal solution. We need a federal amendment. You want a federal amendment for this? It's just like, what, name a state that has a name? What is the law in the DC area for the feds for murder? Every state has that. It's if you want a federal solution, you're going to get Rope 2.0, as Brandon is now telling everybody. That's where they're going to be running on.
Yep.
GOP opened it up a couple months ago. We mentioned that. We've talked about that before. Graham saying it. And guess the Dems are picking that ball up and they're going to run it to the end zone with that.
Yeah, that's all they needed. That's all they need is for you to give up your greatest asset, which was being at the local level. It was actually trying to gather at the local level and grassroots and change hearts and minds. Everybody thinks you're going to change via laws. Laws has not changed a single person, because people still murder, still people get drunk, people still steal, people still do all of these things. They don't stop because the law is in place. And that's one of our biggest failures, is that we're too busy to say, well, the law is passed and our work here is done. So it is a shame for that. And that's what we're looking at. Yeah. What are we seeing here? What's this?
This is Oklahoma. At least this is an act locally, think locally. A state is doing something. They're trying to Oklahoma proposal to make watching porn a felony.
I'll take that.
Hey, guess what? How did that become? How did porn become a free speech thing? Oh, it was the federal government acting like, oh, it's a violation.
It was a SCOTUS case.
Yeah, it's protected under First Amendment. Is usurping the thing. Every time the feds come in and do something, it's, hey, by the way. John Carrollton calls, if you pay taxes, you're pretty much a donkey. That's where we are. We are. He says your ass is a donkey. Because what are you doing? You're just running money and that was back in the 1790s. Imagine what they would think now. By the way, 4 or 5 years after the Constitution got passed, there were people wanting out. 4 or 5 years
in New England. The New England. Yeah, they wanted out real quick. They didn't like any of this, especially when Jefferson was about to buy the Louisiana Purchase. They're like, yeah, this was not in the Constitution. You don't have any political power to do this. We're out.
And Jefferson admitted that, by the way. He said, yes, there's no power for me to do this, but I'm doing it anyways.
Yeah, so that's kind of, a lot of people like to cite 1865 as the end of the U.S. Constitution, but you could easily say it was like 1805 or whatever the case it is, or even the 1800s.
Yeah, so. Taylor Reid on Tyrion Unmasked. He says that thing was over in the late 1790s. By 1799, done. Capiche? Kaput.
Yeah, the fact that this thing has been scotch taped and ducked and super glued together through pretty much force and the threat of force is not a shock. Which, as you can see, Steve has teed us up for a perfect segue. Yeah, look at that. That's why he's the Godfather, man. He's setting him up. So, in case you haven't heard, there is a border crisis in my great republic, and I've been one of the biggest, not negatives. I've been not impressed with Greg Abbott's response for the last, his entire term as governor. But something happened recently that has really ratcheted things up, or in the words of the great Ron Burgundy, it escalated pretty quickly.
What's going on? Greg Abbott yesterday wrote a letter to the American people and to the president and defined his authority and the authority of the United States. So here's what he wrote. Let me give you the whole letter from Governor Greg Abbott, January 24th, 2024. The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. So he said the executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is that he has smashed records for illegal immigration. despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I, Greg Abbott, delivered to him personally by hand. The president has ignored Texas' demand that he performs his constitutional duties. President Biden, therefore, has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress. Instead of prosecuting immigrants for the federal crime of illegal entry, President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow their en masse parole into the United States. By wasting taxpayer dollars to tear open Texas border security infrastructure, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal entry points along the state's southern border, bridges where nobody drowns, into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. I always get that wrong. Is it
Just
right?
Grande,
Rio
buddy.
Grande
Just
or
Rio
Rio Grande?
It's Rico Suave.
Thank you. Okay. That's
Both
what I
of you
thought.
are stupid. Just
Under
read the
President Biden's lawless border policies,
Yeah, they are border.
more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border in just 3 years. That is the population that is more than the population of 33 different states in this country. And that's the 6 million, not the 10. This illegal refusal to protect the United States has inflicted unprecedented harm on the people all across the United States. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and other visionaries who wrote the U.S. Constitution foresaw that states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. That's why the framers included both Article 4, Section 4, which promises that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges, quote, the state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders. Arizona versus United States, blah, 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 blah. The failure of the Biden administration to fulfill its duties imposed by Article 4, Section 4, has triggered Article 1 and Section 10, Clause 3, which reserves this state to the right of self-defense. For that reason, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. The authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. He is declaring the Constitution covers this. He's pointing out where it covers this, how it covers this, and that now the federal government has no authority because they failed to do their duty, and he has declared an invasion. That authority is supreme law of the land, supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and other Texas personnel are acting on that constitutional authority as well as state law to secure the Texas border.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. Do we have an actual map of the states that have volunteered so far or pledged support?
I think I've seen it.
There's a bunch of them floating around. If you give me 2 seconds, I can find it. But
I'll find that. I'll put Tom Woods on what nullification is, because basically that's what this is.
Idea is this. So it comes down to the insight that the federal government cannot be expected to limit itself. You know, now I can understand somebody being skeptical of this in 1790. But, you know, we have a little bit of experience in this area now, and I think this is rather an understatement, if anything. So something outside itself has to do the limiting. It can't be the courts. Oh, the courts will put things right. Oh, let's everybody wait with bated breath to hear what our overlords have to say about what our Constitution means. Jefferson's view was that the Constitution was written in a way that the average person could understand it. You don't need some deep insight that you have to go into debt for 3 years to acquire. None of that. Just read the words. Read, and also read what was said about them, what said about those words in the state ratifying conventions. And in fact, how has the leave it to the courts strategy worked? Most of the time when the federal government gets away with something, it cites the Commerce Clause. The Commerce Clause, it takes up about this much space in the Constitution. It takes up this much space in how the federal government justifies its activities. And in 60 years, starting in the 30s, going to the 1990s, the Supreme Court declared one federal law unconstitutional on Commerce Clause grounds, the Gun-Free School Zones Act of 1990. They combed everything. That was the only thing they could find the federal government had done wrong. So if you like a strategy where every 60 years your liberties might be protected, then by all means, don't listen to anything I have to say. Don't buy the nullification book. Don't do any of this. Or maybe twice, if you're lucky, twice in 60 years. Now, it's just unlikely this is going to happen. And Jefferson and his followers believed that more likely was the outcome that whereby the federal courts would just rubber stamp what the rest of the federal government was doing. No surprise there. So what logically bears the responsibility of keeping the federal government in check? Well, the states. The states created the federal government. I go through all the steps of this in nullification. The states are the sentinels that will say, now, wait a minute, in this particular state, we're just not letting you do this. And this it just boils down to common sense. It really is common sense. If the federal government is doing something that it's not authorized to do, you don't wait around fruitlessly for years hoping that somehow it'll change, because it doesn't. So we're going to try this. That's what it boils down to. The insight that the federal government cannot be allowed to have a monopoly on determining what its powers are.
And that's really what the whole SCOTUS thing. SCOTUS does not have the right or the authority to tell a state for the feds or have the feds do something to the states. They can do something Texas for Oklahoma, Texas, South Carolina, whatever, interstate type deal, something like this. They can't go out and say, we're overriding you for the feds. You talk about government by judiciary. They have no right on doing that.
That is completely correct. And let's welcome in Jonathan Arrington from the still pretty chilly state of Georgia. But positively, Georgia is one of the many states, as Steve put up that map, that has decided to support or show support or either make a statement in or give resources or aid or whatever the case may be to the Republic of Texas. And it's a pretty familiar map for a lot of people. And
I think South Carolina is now on there. It's not updated, but I know North Carolina and Mississippi are still not there.
And so is Kansas. We need Kansas just to get stuff back and forth, so they got to get in on this too. But they're a little bit.
North Carolina is one of the last to break off anyway. So you got Dixie in there plus West Virginia, who was forcibly succeeded from Virginia by some guy named Lincoln. So it's okay when we do it.
So when you're listening to Beck talk, just understand that he has a massive, massive picture of Abe Lincoln in his office. He is he may be a Mormon, but he's a Lincoln worshiper first before he's a Mormon. I mean, his whole life revolves around the greatness of Lincoln. So he is going to take the federal government side and tell you that this is not a good thing or this is something that's bad and that we shouldn't do this or any of these other kinds of things.
Here's his own words for you. So
are people justified at all to say, yeah, it makes me kind of like them, but we got to stop this? So in other words, defying the Supreme Court and just doing it anyway. I don't like that.
I don't care if I don't really care what Plumpy Glenn Beck has to say about that. Because the guy loves us, he loves the establishment. Remember, this guy hated Trump. I don't care what you think about Trump, but he didn't like Trump because he was going to break up Ted Cruz's ascendancy to the presidency. So that is what it is. John, you welcome. First of all, welcome to the program, and secondly, what do you think of this entire setup that we have here? The talk of civil war, the fact that you have a state that's finally stepping up, the fact that you have a divide between the establishment and those who are just tired of this thing happening. Just your overall lay of the land from this.
Well, gentlemen, it's great to be with you too. I was just had a course with some young men, and one of the things that came up is what does Aristotle mean when he says that we are political animals? Like what is because I mean, does he mean that we all want to be somewhere on DC? Probably not. That would be beyond Aristotle's pale. But then as I'm looking into it more and come across this pretty great statement that gets repeated a little bit throughout history as well, that a polis is basically a bunch of towns that are united. All right. Pola austere. If you think about it that way, then it makes sense. You can't get everything done in a town. You need the cooperation of other towns. That's been the case throughout history. I mean, just a single town would be a little bit too small. It takes more than a village. It may take a village, Hillary, but it takes a little more than a village too. And so, like the idea that a true polis, the ancient Greek political arrangement that at least Aristotle was talking about, we called it a political animal, talking about kind of our social nature and wanted to get a little bit outside our own burrows. That makes sense. The craziness of trying to govern the different sorts of places that you have in the U.S., and especially when you add on Alaska and Hawaii, I mean, there's where it just kind of gets beyond the ridiculous. But it's something that eventually has to, I think, to come to a boiling point. And so the talk of things like this, I mean, sometimes we've joked about that movie Idiocracy. Would people even have would their frustration get them off their rears enough to get up and go and do something before it's too late?
I got some Brondo.
I mean,
Scott was playing brave.
At this point, I don't know. Some of us would, and I think that's, I don't know. I'm not positive one way or the other, but I think that if anything bad does end up going down, what'll probably end up happening, unless depending on the gravity of things like that, but is that you'll have different groups that will get together and associate with one another, kind of like that map you showed. Who knows how extensive it'll end up being, because who knows what our communication will be allowed to be by those who still hold the power of communication. That's such a big thing that I'm concerned about, is all this ease of communication right now that also means that our means of communication are getting more centralized and kind of more easily controlled. So, I think part of it will depend on that, but I guess that's what we'll end up seeing is how much is the anger going to get people up to do something and make the sorts of associations that we'll need to keep a true political order, something that's a little bit more than outside of just our own neighborhood.
Yeah, there is a lot of questions, because there's the fraction or remnant of people that believe in state sovereignty or the actual way that these United States were set up and formed, and then there's everybody else who just regurgitates what they've been told in school, kind of like what Glenn Beck said, and also what these people will say as well.
Together, counting Texas, we have 15 governors in 15 states from the United States that are deploying personnel to secure the border. Altogether, if you add in the other states that are supporting this mission, 25 governors in 25 states, half of the states of the United States of America are banding together to step up and secure a border that President Biden has abandoned. All together.
Here's video of the federal government doing it. Here's the Federal Border Patrol. Might as well put some music on. Oh, hey, how low can you go?
Right.
Here's video of not the feds,
Same one. Yep.
Same one. Why
If
did
you guys
that
look
happen?
from a little farther out, you can see the people actually trying to cross the Rio Grande blend back. Not Grande. It's not a large fry, buddy. Rio
Well,
Grande.
the not the feds one was basically them saying, "Go home, go back way you're not getting through."
Yep. Yep.
Hi, good morning, Dana. Just this morning as we pulled up, we witnessed about 30 migrants cross a very high Rio Grande onto a shipping container here in Shelby Park lined with razor wire. We do have video of that, so we want to show that to you. Now, those migrants were actually using clothes and blankets to shield themselves to get through that razor wire. Texas National Guard and Texas DPS, though, were on the other side. You can see them apprehending them on the other side to arrest them for criminal trespassing. They were put into a van, taken to a state processing facility. Then they will be held there in jail until they stand before a court for their sentence. Then they will be handed over to ICE after their time served to see if they will be deported or not. Now, we do want to talk about the Supreme Court decision that came down just a few days ago, giving legal authority to Border Patrol to cut the wire here in Shelby Park. As of right now, no wire has been cut. That's because the Texas National Guard still has control of Shelby Park, and Border Patrol is not allowed into the park to cut that wire. Now, we did talk to officials how the Supreme Court ruling will actually affect how Texas is defending the border. Take a listen.
We still are going to restrict the access here at Shelby Park. We're still going to add additional infrastructure along the river. That's what National Guard is doing right now. Currently, they're adding additional barriers to that concertina wire, making those areas more reinforced so that we can prevent and discourage any illegal border crossings.
And you're looking at the Rio Grande, where the Water Authority is actually raising the level. Controls of the Amistad Dam up the river, releasing more water due to heavy recent rain. Just a reminder for those migrants crossing, they're still making that trek over a dangerous current in that.
It's also the problem you see here too when these people turn entitled because they've been told through NGOs.
Compare that to the open door policy.
To come here, you know, you have this kind of violence that happens here.
The Department has asked for access to this park that is now.
Listen to what he recommends.
Currently in dispute. It doesn't seem like they've gotten it. They now are allowed to cut down razor wire.
Yeah.
Some Democrats are saying the president needs to federalize the Texas National Guard.
So
you hear that one?
Yeah.
Yep. The Texas National Guard.
So look,
that's something that could happen.
I mean, look, I'll say this. You know, the Border Patrol agents are now, as you said, allowed to cut through the wire because of what the Supreme Court has laid out. It's unfortunate that we had to go there. It's unfortunate that there is a governor in Texas, Governor Abbott, who has politicized this issue of what's happening on the border.
I love how
There's another guy thought in wokeness. Dems in Congress calling on Biden to seize control of the Texas National Guard. Yeah, that would get some people uppity. Here's a Chicago rep who's definitely not on our side, and I doubt he will do what he is recommending. Where is this?
They rarely do.
I do know that there's a lot of people that do care, and I think we live in a compassionate community. So, you know, before we go down the road of, you know, doing what, you know, following suit on some of these other cities are taking action on, you know, my idea would be let's find out. Let's find out who's willing to help, you know. So, you know, we do hear from constituents on both sides of this. What are we going to do to preemptively stop this? And then we hear from people that tell us we should do more. So, you know, we do have a very affluent community, a lot of big homes. And what I'd like to do is direct staff to create a sign-up sheet. So, you know, for individuals that would be willing to house migrant families. And if there's people that would do that, God bless them. So if we could raise awareness in that way, I think we need to find out. I think we need to find out who would be willing to house migrant families.
There's unlike the opening lifting it up for them to do the limbo, they're telling them to go home.
Yep. Yep.
That was a video that I tried pushing, but it wouldn't come up.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because while we're doing this, there's tons of other points in the state of Texas where they're still allowing migrants in. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think it's great, and I think the Texas stand is something that should be, it's a long time coming, but it's not stop. If they do get through and they're arrested per Governor Abbott's order, they just get arrested, put in a processing facility, and then put before ICE, and then they get released with their date.
Try again.
So I mean, it's not a 100% solution, but it is it is pushing the idea of state sovereignty to the table, and the fact that you have a government that clearly does not like you, right? The federal government hates all of us, everybody watching, everybody that's here. They do not like you, and they, call Great Replacement, call it whatever you want to call it, but they are not fans. And Texas has suffered, all these other places has suffered because of it, and now what do we do because of it? And do we sit back and wait for the old man? Which old man, right? The old man that's currently there that doesn't care what happens, or the new old man who's the old man that wants to do some kind of securing of the border? So it's depending on DC is just not the way to go in this regard.
No. Well, anything that, if anybody says the federal, that you messed up. Federal solution, no. If you have to start that off, you automatically lost one. If anybody can find one that worked out well when the Senate started, this federal solution did X. If you can find me one that went well, please let me know.
Ironically enough, Steve, they're getting their example for federalizing the National Guard from the Arkansas, the Little Rock 6.
Really?
When they had to nationalize the National Guard to enforce that. So it's not a statement on that. It is that, anytime the feds step in on something, it's precedent for future action.
Well, Bush Jr., he nationalized the National Reserves and sent them out to Iraq during the whole 9/11 thing. That was when he took control of the National Guards. That's violation right there. He does not. The commander-in-chief of the National Guard is the president of the state. That's the governor. Abbott is the commander-in-chief of the Texas National Guard. Period. Close the book. If that just shows you want dictatorships. Everyone keeps on Trump. That there was some lady in New Hampshire saying, I voted for Nikki because I didn't want a dictatorship. They all are dictators in a sense. But what do you think that is? Hey, let's federalize everything. Federalize healthcare, federalize Social Security, federalize everything's federalized. Hey, nobody wants. It's that whole thing of what's his face, the old Soviet prisoner, the Gulag. I can't remember his name right now, but he talked about saying that people like the word freedom, they like how it sounds, but the actual practice of it, they don't really care for it. We need that safety net from the. Hey, it's good to have a safety net, but what was it? Andrew Wilkow had a great line. It was the same words, used two different ways. The government says you will help these people. The church says, will you help these people? Two different ways of interpretation, the same words, and it's forced by a gun every time. And if you do it the wrong way, you people, well, we're just not. I mean, like that vote for New Hampshire. I sent you guys a photo. They called Brandon the winner after 1.2 votes came in for him. He was third, not even close. Oh, yeah. By the way, did you see this whole thing? Sorry,
for Truth or Fake, our daily fact-checking segment, and I'm joined by Catalina Marchand de Abreu. So, Catalina, in today's edition, you're taking a look and a listen to a fake robocall that went out to voters in New Hampshire impersonating Joe Biden. Tell us more.
That's right, Monty. American voters in New Hampshire received an alarming call over the weekend, a deep fake robocall that was AI generated. In this fake phone message, you can hear U.S. President Joe Biden asking New Hampshire Democrats not to vote on this past Tuesday's primary vote. Here's the robocall that was obtained by NBC News. Let's take a listen.
We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. If you would like to be removed from future calls, please press 2.
Clearly an uncanny impersonation of U.S. President Joe Biden encouraging New Hampshire voters not to vote, not to go to the polls. After this robocall started circulating over the weekend, the New Hampshire Department of Justice confirmed through this statement that
That's
this
actually the most
message,
coherent
that
we've
even
ever
though
heard,
it
Joe.
sounds like President Joe Biden, it was artificially generated based on initial indications. So a message that appears to be an unlawful attempt to disrupt.
What do we say towards the end of the year? You're not going to be able to, you're not going to know what reality is. You got the AI generated robocalls, you got deep fakes videos. You got to figure out what
Filters
you
on everything.
is real
So.
and what.
Yeah, it's very interesting in that regard. John, your thoughts? None. I don't want to do this anymore.
Is this real John or is this a fake John?
I mean, sometimes the idiocy is just too much. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm not even watching real human beings anymore when I see those clips. Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that idiocy. The only thing I can think of, I mean, I have heard I think some well-meaning attempts to calm people's fears by saying, things are not as bad as they seem. Everybody's thought they were living in the end of the world, which is true. That part is true. That all ages have thought their own age to really be a decadent age, and that is true. However, has any age really been confused about male and female like we have? Or here's the thing: like when you start asking people questions, they're not confused. There's just an agenda. So, like, has any age said we're going to fight nature the way our age is? I mean, I don't know.
Many different ways.
Yeah. Oh, and so exactly. I mean, the male-female thing I think is just the most the easiest for most people to see. But yeah, you're right in so many different ways. I think they do a little bit better job of hiding most of the other things from normal discourse and view. I mean, it's just when you get to something that even late night comedians can start joking about, I think we're at a spot where even the average liberal Joe and Jane, or Joe and Joe, or Jane and Jane, could see that there's something up with all this. But so I don't know. How many sane people could you get in one room to talk about matters like this, much less to vote and be expected to vote reasonably? I mean, if we don't agree with these people about what male and female are, I'm trying to imagine what a vote for, in one sense, the most powerful leader in the world. I mean, I know controlled by puppets in many other ways, but in a certain sense, most powerful leader of the most powerful nation, or at least the most reckless nation in the world. I don't know. I don't even know what it all adds up to be in the end.
True. Yeah, it is very confusing right now to just kind of to settle all this out, because I guess we can point to the fact that everybody seems to just be out for themselves. And our elected officials at every level, state, local, state, federal, they all seem to be out for themselves, whether it's they're all fighting for the Oval Office, or they're fighting for a lobbying group, or fighting for re-election. They're all trying to grasp their own sense of power, and it leaves all of us out in the cold when these things happen. And now they're all kind of scrambling over themselves to figure who has supremacy, when the fact of the matter is it shouldn't have gotten to this point in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best point too, Rick, is to really latch onto that and focus on how different being a leader of a country, or really a leader anywhere, is in our day. I mean, leaders have always abused their power, but the just how precarious things were and how you could easily be offed. I think that was, if you didn't take care of your own to a certain extent, how there are certain balances there. Talk about balance of powers. I think that's where people are starting, especially in the Western world, to kind of lose that connection. I mean, I guess the last, I don't know, I'm sure I'm missing one in the Western world, but you got JFK, and I think that kind of woke people up a little bit. But it's almost like God forbid I even say this, but like something else like that, if that were to happen, and clearly like so much that went on with JFK's supposed assassination was just, there's so much that we do not know, and that the official story is just clearly so bogus. I mean, those things are so patent to I think the person who looks into it even a little bit, that you almost need something like that to rattle people and say, look, have you forgotten like what it really means to be a leader nowadays, quote unquote. I don't know if any of what I'm saying is actually making sense, but it's just like there's so much of a disconnect between what voting for POTUS actually means and what it in reality is, that it's almost like we're talking two different languages. It's almost like we're hearing people talking Chinese. We want to talk about Chinese all the time. It's when I hear folks, it's like when I hear people getting all excited about the POTUS, to me it sounds like a foreign language. I mean, sure, Vivek was saying a lot of good stuff about what we ought to be doing, if it were possible, it's like everybody else just, I'm wondering what the whole conversation was even about.
Well, it's America's next top president. It's the greatest greatest TV drama show on TV, because American Idol is not in existence anymore, or is it? I don't remember.
It's on season 95.
Season 95, or was
They can't do anything.
Make a few more.
They got to fill time blocks now,
Fast and
man.
Furious.
Doesn't even matter if it's successful. They just have it.
Here's the governor of Louisiana.
We support legal, not illegal immigration. We support secure and safe borders, not open border policies that allow criminals, human trafficking, and drugs to pour into this country. We stand with Governor Abbott and Texas in reminding the federal government that under our Constitution, states are still sovereign, and we have the right to protect our citizens.
Loving the language.
Right.
You take that out to go do a little man on the street, Rick on the man on the street. Our state sovereign, I guarantee 99.99% of the people you talk to are going to say no, if they even know what the word means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exact. I mean, it's buzzwords. It's whatever words they think can generate the most buzz on whatever social media platform or whatever they're trying to do or whatever trying to hawk or sell. Because, folks, in the end, most of these things are being used to sell a product, either a candidate or something, or whatever the case may be, an ideology. And so it's nice. Although I don't like the phrase, we support. Yeah, no kidding. Everybody does. Everybody supports. You don't have to give. I hate when they have to give that kind of disclaimer up front, instead of just being like, nope. Like,
forget
even
this.
though Italy and Spain and France are all being invaded, they don't technically have open borders.
And those people are picked.
Yeah.
Yeah, France is, they're having big time protests. Poland had a huge protest. No one's talking about Poland. Huge.
Yeah, I know.
Irish people, they are not happy.
The Italian president, prime minister who ran on scaling that all back, she's flipped, and so everybody's real angry at her because she used the skin suit of a conservative to get into office, only to flip flop. So, which is why everybody's keeping an eye on Argentina too. We're trying to see when that guy flips too. But so far,
there was a protest today I saw on RT. They're protesting hunger. People are hungry. They're starving. So yeah, I don't know what Malay's doing with that. Even though everyone he's the golden child for a lot of people.
They're in the honeymoon period with him still.
Hey, he went after the Pope, so we got to love him. Come on.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, Yep. He said naughty words about the Pope. So you know what? We should make him the next Pope, because he said naughty things. So that's exactly what we want to do, man. Yeah. So it's very interesting. And I also find it very funny to see all of these governors every time they post something. Jeff Landry was one who actually was in a suit in his place. Like Kristi Noem's putting one out on her Twitter right now. She's in like the combat gear and the helicopter. When I visited nobody cares if you visited the border. Just tell us you support us and move on. We don't need, like, I hate it when governors and other people go down there. It's like, that's not your state. Thanks for showing up, but what are you doing outside of South Dakota or outside of your state? Stay there. Stay where you go. Stay where you need to be.
I just remember when Biden was asked that, "Hey, have you gone down to the border?" And it's like, who cares? I mean,
I go down on the border all the time. They got great chips.
Hey, but hey, at least this is making people go, well, you can't like Lincoln and his policies and be for Texas at the same time. This is two different things right there. There was a guy, he was on the Texas National Movement show, and he's talking about how he took a vow to the oath of the country. Well, no, you took an oath to the Constitution. The Constitution and the government is not a quote unquote country. We just got our words so backwards, confused. We're a bunch of idiots talking online anymore. We don't know what the heck we're talking about. The government, the country is not a government. And there's one guy I sent his retweeted thing. It was Daniel, wasn't it Daniel? He talked about his national pride, and he has the Texas flag flying. Bingo, there you go. That's national pride. Again, why wouldn't you, if you're in Texas, have a Texas Olympic team? Would you care more about the Olympics if your brother down the street, if you had a Texas basketball team going at it versus, or a Texas hockey? I don't know if you play hockey in Texas, doubtful.
Yeah, no,
or anything, or Texas, whatever.
We don't care, buddy. We're just going to put up
We're
just going to put up a football team, and then everything else we could care less about.
Yeah, forget the rest of this. Hey, and then someone says, "Oh, the southern border." Well, it's soon to be to Oklahoma's your southern border, or Louisiana your southwestern border, whatever you want to call it. I mean, but Oklahoma's doing this dumb thing. You see this?
Oh, they want to build America's tallest building. Well, that's not good, really.
Tornado Alley.
That's not fair to do it in Oklahoma too, because we'll be able to see it from here because it's so flat. So that's not even in Tornado Alley.
Imagine you got a great view of an E5 right around there. NEM.
Yeah. That's,
there's a lot. They're including a loud sound speaker, so when an E5 hits, it just says "Kiss your butt goodbye."
Yeah. You could get a parachute if you want. Maybe try to outrun it that way. Jump out and try to fly down there. Jeff Wilson here is bringing up some interesting points in our chat. USA borders the responsibility of all the states. I'd like you to point that out in the actual U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, South Dakota has nothing to do with the Texas border or the southern.
Or he does give an example. He does give an example. I will give him that. We're not trashing on him. It's just, if China invaded California, in that case, that's a time of war. The way it would work under the federal system is the Congress would pass an act of war, and then the Congress, being representative of the states, would do that, and the executive would then sign on it, and that would actually be your authorization to defend California.
Right, that's an actual power of theirs.
Yeah, so that would be it. Of course, Jeff's like, we would all actually say that too if they invade California. We'd come together and be like, we will give you California if you give us an unlimited supply of, chicken fried rice for a year.
Was it Austin Powers? We blow up the moon. Would you miss it?
Would you miss it? Would you really miss it? I mean, what is one good thing out of California? Now, that's not a correct statement. I always like to bring the stat up since I heard it. The more people voted for Trump in California than on all of Texas or Florida. 6 million people voted for Trump in California. I know it doesn't mean anything because it's a blue state, but there are a lot of good people out there who are unfortunately drowned out by plastic.
If you take the Texas mindset to California, that would solve the California problem.
Yeah,
breaking up California. You break up the north. They had the movement of Jefferson up there, the northern part. They didn't do much with it. There's a time that you say you go pound sand to the feds, and you can say you go pound sand to your state capital, and we're creating a new state. Here's our Constitution. And then the dumb thing about it is if you reapply it to the U.S., for citizenship for the states. And I mean, there's a movement right now in Oregon to break off from Eastern Oregon, to break off from Western Oregon and move and join Idaho. That can happen. So, hey, Californians, yeah, sometimes I don't feel so bad for you. If you guys really wanted to break away from LA, San Fran, do it. Stop talking about it. Figure out how to do it. Might take a couple years. Might take they've been trying. Try harder. That's that whole line. If you don't you don't succeed, try again.
Yep. I mean, the fact of the matter is too, the people in Oregon, it's crazy. You're gonna break away, successfully break away, and then ask to be a part of something else. If you break away, just be like, we're
I'm leaving the level 4 of the Titanic to move to level 3.
Yeah, we're part of we're the state of Nike or whatever the case may be. Have him come in and sponsor it for you or whatever. Your whole logo could just be the swoosh, and Nike we trust and so forth. But but all kidding aside, if you're gonna break away, don't run to somebody else.
That's Bill Kaufman's book, Bye Bye Miss American Empire. That's we got this mindset. Oh, if we break up, then China's going to come in or Russia's going to do that. Ain't going to happen. I mean, Texas breaks up, the top 5 global economies. California be that too. Florida could do that. That's why you join a confederacy of other states to group together and say, I'm going to join and have free trade between these guys. And you have foreign trade with other guys. You still can do it. I mean, it's just wanting to break away from the, again, it's the whole USA, we're one nation baloney stuff. Never would have thought that. Hence, when we opened up the show with 1794, John Taylor Carrollton, he had guys come up to him from New England wanting out after 4 years of the U.S. Constitution because they knew that, hey, this is a thing. It didn't work. We won out. If they thought it was a bad idea, they would never have thought that idea.
Yeah, no, but the fact is you just have this definition of what a state was before the Civil War and the definition of what a state was after the Civil War, and people need to just realize that it's such a huge deal in that regard because that's the whole point of this today. You got Biden up there or somebody from the Bidens saying they got 24 hours to leave or else what?
I just like this Biden photo. You see this?
No.
It was a 2 photo. He went to the same cookout in 3 years, and someone took a screenshot of it. He voted. There he is right there. I guess he went. So it's $5.99 the first time he went.
Oh, no.
And the last time, and just the other day, it's $7.69 at the same exact location.
Prices are going down, buddy. Prices are going down. What are you talking about? Everybody's happier. Everybody's happy and healthy, and nobody in any way, shape, or form is suffering under Joey B. He's doing great stuff. You can't deny that at all.
Nah.
We have any other clips you want to discuss?
That's really about it. I mean, we played this last time.
And tonight I'm also making another promise to protect Americans from government tyranny. As your president, I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
I just found out what that was.
We played that like 5 minutes after you said it.
Well, yeah, from Vivek, right?
From Vivek. Yeah. So if anyone wants to hold him to that promise, I mean, I'm not holding my breath because he's a politician and I do not trust any of these guys.
No, not
especially the father of Warp Speed.
Yeah. Yeah. Who still, I bet he still loves it in every way, shape, and form. He loves Warp Speed so much in that regard. But yeah, that's what we got there. Do you have a cry room and a saint of the week? I think I'm going to make a host override. The saint of the week are the state of Texas and all the states that are supporting him. Both of us get that one. That's a pretty easy one.
That's fine. That's fair enough. I'll put a cry room as people that if you did this before, you were thrown in jail or called names. This lady literally coughs on people. Is that the right. WEF? This is the witch. If you did that 3 years ago, you were pretty much thrown in jail. But now it's okay. As long as a witch does it, you can.
It's good. It's good for you. It's good for you.
Totally cool. Yeah.
Yep. That's what it is. Good call. So my cry room is going to be all journalists. This guy put this up yesterday. The LA Times newsroom, what's missing? And he's getting trolled like cockroaches, scum of the earth. the fact of the matter is, folks, you don't hate journalists enough for what they've done to you in your life through COVID and everything else. And the fact that now they're trying to do the thing, Steve, where they say, we never told people to learn to code. We never told people to do those things. We're just happy and all of the nicest things ever. It's like, nah, go learn to code.
Did you see Sports Illustrated? They're a hose because they did fake AI, pretty much AI written articles with fake people names just to get awards.
Yeah, just to fill the pages because nobody wanted to write there anyway.
Yeah.
That it was funny. They got taken over by a BlackRock Vanguard conglomerate in like 2019, and that's when they just absolutely cratered. And the idea was to destroy institutions. I've heard this, tossed about, and the idea of destroying American institutions like Bud Light and Sports Illustrated and all these other kinds of things. And some people lament that, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't really care if something that causes lust in men goes away. I'm really okay with that.
I'll ask you just for giggles, since we brought up sports. Who's winning this week? Who's going to the Super Bowl? Will the Tay Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, or will it be a crime Super Bowl? Baltimore versus Detroit.
I got one worse for you. Or did you say Tay versus the Lions? Because that would be the most insufferable Super Bowl between Eminem and Taylor Swift.
I didn't even think about Eminem with Detroit. I know he was there for the game, but I didn't think about that. I was thinking it's going to be Tay Chiefs versus San Francisco, because it's pretty much they're gonna have them in there somehow. But
I don't know. I think Detroit might win. I think Detroit.
They're terrible away from home. Even though I haven't watched much of them, they're more of a homer team. But
yeah, they need the dome. Although that question that Todd Bowles had to answer about playing in Detroit 2 weeks ago, because he was the coach of Tampa, he had this woman asking, like, how do you think your team's going to react to playing in Detroit, because the weather's been such a problem? He's like, well, playing a dome, so I don't think we're going to have to worry about it too much.
The Tay Chiefs with Mr. Pfizer all the way.
Yeah, that's right. They got to get folks. It's going to be Kansas City coming out of the East or the AFC, because they need Taylor Swift for ratings. They need Mr. Pfizer there, Mr. Bud Light there. They need all that stuff. So if you think I'm
laughing at it because it's mostly rigged.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you think it's rigged, then Kansas City has to win. They have to win because they have all those things in their favor.
Yeah, if it's not rigged, then Detroit goes all the way, I think.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I actually think Baltimore would have a shot against Detroit, but
yeah, it'll be Baltimore, Detroit if it's not rigged.
Yep, and shout out to Michigan. Well, and shout out to Jim Harbaugh, who won the national title. Now he's the head coach of the Chargers. He's like, see ya.
Yeah.
So all good Catholics go play for the Chargers. You had Phillip Rivers. I think he had 9 kids while he was playing for the Chargers.
Yeah.
And then so I guess that's kind of where Catholics go.
He's got love now. He's got an offensive unit now.
Yeah, he has a baseball team. He has an offensive line. It's probably his best offensive line too he ever played behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little bit of a jocular humor there, folks, towards the end. But that's it for this. Oh wait, did I? Yeah, I gave all my stuff. Yeah, we're good. That's it for this episode of News from the Pew. Please like, subscribe, and share the News from the Pew. I want to thank you all for hanging out with us today. Pray for Steve to have a speedy recovery.
I'll be all right.
He was awesome.
I'll have Jason Kelsey come over and dance.
I'm gonna, just mute him. He was awesome coming out today, and it's not easy to do these kinds of things when you're under the weather and you're coughing. So please pray for Steve for a speedy recovery for him. God bless everybody, and Viva Cristo Rey.